So recently it occurred to me that I don't have a 2023 mock draft up on my channel yet, so today I figured I would fix that. So this is going to be a top 10 mock draft based off of standing projections for the 2023 season. So it's not going to be quite the same. Some teams are expected to be worse than they were last year. That being said, the team that I think most people are expecting to be the worst team in the league next year is the Chicago Blackhawks. So I have them selecting first overall Connor Bedard. I mean, what's there to say about Connor Bedard that hasn't already been said? He is the best player in this draft class, bar none. Now, in the 2022 draft, there was some debate about who was the best player in the draft. A lot of people thought it was Shane Wright, myself included. Obviously, he didn't go first overall. He ended up going fourth overall, so it kind of shows you there wasn't really a huge consensus on Shane Wright or who the best player in general was, but that is not the case in the 2023 draft. There are some really, really, really good players in this top 10 mock draft, but Connor Bedard is better than the rest of them, for sure. Going second overall to the Arizona Coyotes, I have Adam Fantilli. Now, Fantilli, I don't believe is the second best player in the draft, but he seems like the type of player the Coyotes might draft. Now, they don't tend to go for the most skilled player necessarily on the board. They like bigger guys, kind of power forwards, and Adam Fantilli definitely fits that description. Going third overall to my favorite team, the San Jose Sharks, I have Matvei Michkov. And let me tell you guys, if Matvei Michkov goes to the Sharks third overall, I will be ecstatic. I mean, it'll either be Michkov or Fantilli, barring injury. That is almost certainly what is going to happen, assuming San Jose is actually drafting third overall. Regardless, those two guys will be going 2 and 3. It's just the order is yet to be seen. Michkov is the most exciting Russian prospect possibly since Ovechkin. I don't mean to be too hyperbolic here, but he's really, really good. Now, he's not great defensively. In fact, he's pretty bad defensively, but I just watched a game of Connor Bedard's where I tracked his stats and everything. If you didn't see that video, I will post it at the end of this one for you guys, but he was not good defensively. A lot of people are saying Connor Bedard is clearly better than Michkov because he's a more well-rounded player, and that is true to an extent, but I don't want to hype up Bedard's defensive abilities at all here. And while they are better than Michkov, Michkov has a long way to come on defense. I think Michkov is just as good of a goal scorer, more or less. He's a truly elite goal scorer, should be capable of scoring 50 goals in the NHL, I would think. Now, he is signed with a KHL team through a few years, so the earliest he could come over, I believe, would be his age 22 or age 23 season, which might scare some teams off. It's hard to say if that would scare the Sharks off or not because they have a new GM, and this is really going to be the first year with the Mike Greer's full staff running the draft, so their philosophy is completely unknown to us. So maybe it will scare them off, but regardless, I think if they're drafting third, they kind of have to take him. Going fourth to the Montreal Canadiens, I have Callum Ritchie. Now, there's going to be a lot of Canadians in this list. We already have 3 in the top 4. It's a very, very good year for Canadian prospects. But Callum Ritchie is not one of my favorites. He's a very good prospect, don't get me wrong. And at this point in time, I could see why a team would take him top 5 for sure. Obviously, it's very early. I'd love to see how these guys play out in the season, and I will be paying attention to that, of course. But Ritchie is just not my favorite prospect. He plays kind of a more pesty style game, kind of. He's still very skilled, but he's a bit more physical, a bit more pesty sometimes, and he can definitely get under the opponent's skin. He's definitely a guy you love to have on your team, but just in general, he's not the play style I prefer watching. Going 5th overall to the Buffalo Sabres, I have Leo Carlson. Now, the Sabres, I believe, are projected to be this bad at this point. Personally, I don't think they are going to be this bad. I think they're going to be quite a step above where they were last season. But for the purposes of this mock draft, we're just saying they're drafting 5th overall, and I have them selecting Swedish forward Leo Carlson. So Carlson is another very highly skilled guy, but I think more importantly for that Buffalo prospect pool, he's also brings size. I believe he's 6'3", and by draft day, who knows, he could be 6'4", maybe even taller. Very tall for a forward, really. And I feel like he doesn't really play a huge physical game, but the Sabres could definitely use some size in that prospect pool. Now, before I get further into this mock draft, allow me to introduce today's sponsor, the subscribe button. The subscribe button is a great feature on YouTube. It's this little red button that appears below every YouTube video. It also appears on my channel page, and you can go ahead and click it. And what happens when you do that is the pleasure centers of my brain start taking over, and that makes me feel really happy. But in all seriousness, guys, I am trying to grow an audience here and eventually hopefully do this full time. It's kind of my dream job, I guess, at this point. And every single little thing, every like, every subscription, every comment, everything really helps. I really appreciate it. Drafting 6th overall, I have the Anaheim Ducks taking Dalibor Dvorsky. And Anaheim is a team that probably will be this bad drafting this high up this upcoming season. I would think maybe even higher, especially if they win the lottery, of course. And Dalibor Dvorsky is just he's another really highly skilled prospect. I haven't seen him too much. I believe he played at the Hlinka Gretzky tournament. I saw him there. Didn't stand out too much to me so far. But he put up really good numbers last year playing in Sweden, I believe. And he's another really highly anticipated guy. Another top guy from Slovakia to add to Slafkovsky and Mishar and those types of guys. It's a good era for Slovakian hockey right now. Next, drafting 7th overall, I have the Seattle Kraken taking Zach Benson. Benson is one of my favorite players in this draft class. If you've been around this channel a while, you probably have seen that. Zach Benson is one of the best, if not the best, playmaking forwards in this draft class. I watched him a lot last season with Winnipeg, and he played a lot on a line with Connor Geekie, and to be quite frank, I liked him more than Connor Geekie. Kind of by a lot. Assuming he progresses well this season, he should easily be a top 10 pick. He could even be pushing the top 5 by the end of the season. His playmaking abilities are that good. Next, drafting 8th overall, I have the Philadelphia Flyers selecting Quentin Musty. Now, Quentin Musty is not one of my favorite prospects in this draft class, and for organizations that do have rankings out already, they tend to have him in the middle of the first round, and I would probably have him somewhere around that range as well. But the Flyers, I don't think they're a team that's great at drafting, if I'm being honest, and I feel like they're going to look at Musty. They're going to see a guy with a great shot, and they're going to take him a bit higher than maybe he should go. And that's really Musty's game so far, what I've seen from him at the Hlinka tournament as well. He has a very good shot. He's a very good finisher, and that is a very valuable skill, a very valuable asset to have in the NHL. Finishing is arguably the most important part of the game for an NHL player. So it's good that he has that part of the game down, especially just scoring goals. But the rest of his game could use a bit of work. Next, at 9th overall, I have the Winnipeg Jets selecting another one of my favorite players that I was watching last season in Braden Yeager. So Yeager has a really good shot, but he's also a pretty decent playmaker as well. He played a lot of last season with Jagger Firkus, and those two developed a lot of chemistry together on Moose Jaw. More than likely, they will be playing together as well this season. And I think that's them playing together is going to be good for the development of both players, and I expect Braden Yeager to really pop off this season. He should be scoring, I don't know, at least 40 goals, I would guess, in the WHL this season. He has a really good shot, as I mentioned. Pretty solid playmaker as well, and not the worst player to have in the defensive zone either. Finally, with the 10th overall selection in the 2023 draft, I have the Vancouver Canucks taking a BC native, Matthew Wood. So Wood is kind of an interesting prospect. He played in the BCHL last season, and he elected this season to go to college, so he'll be playing NCAA, I believe at Northeastern, but I could be wrong. And I saw him play at the Hlinka Gretzky tournament, and he was pretty good. He showed flashes of skill here and there, but overall, I felt like he was kind of a passenger on that team. I saw enough from him that I kind of believe his BCHL numbers. The thing with players coming out of that league is that it's really hard to project to other leagues because the quality of competition is so low. But what I saw from at the Hlinka tournament gives me a bit of faith that he can score at higher levels. Now, NCAA is one of the more tricky levels of hockey to watch, but I'm sure I will be watching plenty of Matthew Wood this season regardless. And I'd be really interested in seeing what kind of season he has. I have a sneaking suspicion that he's the type of guy that's probably going to fall down draft boards a little bit. Maybe he goes in the mid first rounds to like early 20s, maybe even a little bit lower than that. But for now, based off where people have him and the skill that he has, I have him going 10th overall to the Vancouver Canucks. Okay guys, well that is it for this mock draft. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? If you did like it, please do give it a like. Of course, that really helps me out. Subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. If you want to learn a little bit more about the guy going first overall in the draft, I will put a video on screen right here. Yeah, right in front of my face. I'll put a video on screen about Connor Bedard right in front of my face. It's a really good video. I honestly think it's the best video I've made on my channel so far. Go check it out.